Alrighty, hopefully those last couple videos gets rid of the shills and they just realize that no matter what they say or do, like, I'm gonna keep blocking them and I ain't got time for it. But I wanted to explain a little bit about those videos where I just attacked the fools. What did I mean? How did I mean it? And what's the proof behind it? So, the first video was about me being wrong about my video maybe back in the beginning of June that says end of June, MULN $20. And a lot of my basis for that end of June was because the last week of June, on Monday, we were supposed to enter the Russell 3000. And when AMC did that, they put 200 million shares in. So AMC, like after the June squeeze, there's 200 million shares right now today sitting in the Russell 2000, I think. And so I know, based off all the dilutions announcements, we had one on March 14th, 150 million shares. One on March 28th, around 50 million shares. One on March 31st, around 50 million shares. One on May 13th, around 40 million shares. One on June 2nd, around 110 million shares. And since then, we've traded 1.7 billion shares and haven't got a dilution announcement. So you add up the math and it says that they should have already ran out of dilution. But we'll see what happens tomorrow, I guess. So before the June 30th, before my prediction that June 30th for MULN for $20, all of March and all of April, I was predicting MULN would go to $10. And then multiple times, when we hit a dip, and it feels like the dip before the rip, I announced the squeeze is here, people. Get ready for the squeeze. And what happens? A lot of the times, if you go back and watch my videos and check to the MULN stock price, the market crashed, MULN ripped, and then they diluted. And so for me, when I can point to the stock price of the 50 million shares that we diluted from March 28th to March 31st, average $3 a share, it's $150 million of retail buying power. I was watching the socials, I was seeing what all the people are saying, and it was clear and obvious that they were afraid. And that they knew retail buying power was coming in just like I knew it. And so almost every time that I predict something's going to happen, like we get massive retail buying power, we get dilution, and a dilution to me is no different than a squeeze. It means we won, and they had to cheat to beat us. But eventually that runs out, and so I'm going to keep predicting. And I'm not going to feel bad about predicting. If you look at AMC, they ran it to $20, and then they ran it to $14. So they ran it from $5 to $20. Then they crashed it back down to $5. Ran it to $14. Never went below $8, but hit $14 three times before it finally ran to $72. They raised like $2.5 billion with their 500 million shares of dilution. MULN also had 500 million shares of dilution since February 14th, 2022. The highest they ever diluted at was $3 a share for all 500 million shares. Nobody could have guessed that. It was the most illogical, worst bet you could make because it means the market makers have put themselves in the absolute worst, horrible position. And there's no way they could ever lose more money on a short squeeze than doing it the way that they've done it for MULN. This is the most diluted stock, 100% to retail, at the absolute smallest market cap ever seen in the history of the world. So the fact that they chose this route, I mean, if you go look at my old Twitters, like, you can't because they've been suspended, but like I could do a video on them. And every time I say, you know what, people? Even if I'm wrong, guess what? It just means they dug themselves in a worse position. And one day it's still going to happen. And now we're here, people. And so, if you're an honest, genuine person, you have honest questions, or after this whole thing goes through, you want to know how, like, more than just money, what can we do to fix this world? Like, I'll have videos for answers for people like that. But at the same time, if they're talking about me on TV, if somebody's talking crap somewhere, I'm going to make a video on it, and I'm going to tell them what I really think of them. And until somebody stands up and actually has the conversation with me and tries to refute my DD, my research, and tell me where I'm wrong, until they do that before hating on me, I know that they're just an evil scumbag, and I'm going to treat them like an evil scumbag. If you got a problem with me treating bad people badly, like, guess this ain't the channel for you. It's okay. Ain't no cowards bear our flag. What was the other video I made? The other video I made was about the options. We will go back and we will look, like, assuming MULN squeezes, which we know that's happening, but assuming after that, like, it doesn't get swept under the rug like GameStop and AMC did, but people actually want to know what happened, and, like, we're actually able to collect and analyze real data, it's going to prove that nothing starts a short squeeze better than a massive call options being loaded up on all of a sudden, day after day after day, which is exactly what happened with MULN. It went from 52 cents to $2 in 2 days, and in that time frame, there was no options, a very small amount of options. After that time frame, in the next 10 days, there was 30,000 volume of options being traded every single day. 30,000 contracts being traded every single day. And it wasn't more than 1 or 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks maximum, that MULN got its first, probably, I want to say it was like around 250,000 contracts. And a lot of people made money on their options. The ones that bought the conservative at the money strikes. But those people all cashed out early. Like, they cashed out at $2, $3, $4, and they made 500 to 1,000% on their options. Good for them. But a lot of people, especially me, bought the cheapest cost per contract, which required it to be relatively early to expire. So it was March 28th expiration, and I started buying them probably March 5th. Had maybe 4,000 or 5,000 contracts. And there was a lot more than, like, just me buying those. And it is my belief that that is the reason they didn't let it run to $10. Because we would have made millions of dollars. And they can't just let people be making millions of dollars. And so what do? They say, let's run it to this price, pay a couple people, and then dilute. Well, I lost on the March. Then we loaded up again on the April. And then after that, we loaded up on the May. And then after that, we loaded up on the July. A little bit of June, but mostly just July. And there is nothing that gets people to buy more stock than seeing everyone else buy options. Now, everyone had to come in and they had to look and watch the YouTubes, the interviews with David Mickery, see what's up with the company, research a little bit on the battery, make sure things are cool, and they were cool. And people just left social media. They said, this is the stock. I'm buying the stock. I like the stock. And I bet you, like, the people that are just buying stock, they're so happy that they got 5 months to buy the stock and the last 2 months to buy it at $1 half the time. They're so happy about that. And again, it was because the options started it when that first squeeze happened. All of a sudden, just massive, $1 million a day going into call options for 10 days from March 1st to March 14th. But if you think about that, that was only $10 million. If you go and you look at the March, the April, the May, the June, the July, all the options that have expired worthless, guaranteed it's not more than $30 million. $30 million is 30 million shares of MULN. 30 million shares might be all they got left right now. So basically, by the option buyers not buying in, or by them not buying options and rather buying stock, you could have maybe squoze a week earlier. But by instead buying the options, all the extra stock buyers that came in, we actually got a squeeze 6 months sooner. If you were just buying the stock, they would have either gave you a mini squeeze and a bunch of people would have cashed out and you'd be trapped in a box like BBIG where it looks like they got no dilution left and it looks like retail owns the float. But really, since the last squeeze where it ran from $3 to $12 in 4 days, people cashed out. And so because it's like basically insiders, institutions, and then the free float, like BBIG, half of the free float is owned by hedge funds that are working for the government. Not MULN though. Because it's all new dilution and it's all recent dilution and it's all stock price manipulation. BBIG just been chilling. It didn't start getting manipulated until they started popping it upwards to distract from MULN. It has no volume. It's had no volume. MULN's had 10 billion shares traded in the last 5 months. The point is, if you just bought in the stock, you wouldn't be getting the opportunity you're getting now. And if you would have bought it all the way to dilution, 100% max dilution, it would have been 3 years from now at $10 a share. Maybe 2 years when their cars are actually on the road. But it's so much better it happened this way. It's so much better. Everyone's about to see. We're going to get a dilution announcement. The stock price is going to rip uncontrollably. We all know it's max dilution. And the whole world's going to see that retail has all the power. Right now, today, nothing is more powerful in controlling the markets, the money, and the system than retail investors. And at any time, they can flip the table and say, game over. That's all I'm trying to teach you people. Oh, man. YOLO and the MULN, people. Now's the time.